welcome back our co-hosts for the Friday Five from the first half hour. Retired Admiral, former president of the Berkeley County Commission. He's got his own institute, Mr. Bill Stubblefield.
Good morning, Rob. Great to be here.
We've got a badger. We've got Delegate the Sarge, Michael Hike.
Good morning. Good to be here.
Former tax commissioner of the state of West Virginia. Longest tenured member of our crew, Mr. Michael Carl.
Great to be back. Thank you.
Wonderful to have you.
Huh?
Wonderful to have you.
Well, I think, that's appreciated.
He is a 26-year member of the House of Delegates, though not consecutively.
Got it.
Or concurrently, for that matter.
No, you can't do that concurrently with something.
He is a Vietnam War veteran, former Deputy Revenue Secretary of the State, Mr. John Doyle.
Good morning, everybody.
Attorney at law, Paisan, his name ends in a vowel, Mr. Joe Ferretti.
Good morning, fellows.
By video conference. Nice to see you, Joe.
Do you like my shirt?
Yeah, well, you got some patriotic colors going on there.
Yeah, I'm in a celebratory mood. I hope everybody else is too.
Yeah, we've got already a 90-degree feels like temperature here in the Panhandle. 84 the temperature with the humidity. It already feels like 90 at 8:36. What's it like in Georgia this morning?
It's like an oven. The humidity's high, the temperature's high. The heat indexes today are going to be 106, 107.
106, 107. That's about what we're going to be.
Yeah. It's very tough on the golf game.
Wow. It's a cross you'll have to bear, Joe.
I'll try to endure.
Yeah. Be a man. Man up, Joe.
Yep.
It reminds, when reading the Declaration of Independence and the 27 grievances against the king, it reminds me of this one, Joe. He has dissolved representative houses repeatedly for opposing with manly firmness his invasions on the rights of the people. I encourage you to find your own manly firmness as you struggle on the golf course today.
Yes. Manly firmness is a good thing.
Here, here. Okay.
Here.
And on that note, another one was he has erected a multitude of new officers and sent hither swarms of officers to harass our people and eat out their substance. So that's just two of the 27 grievances against the king, all found in the Declaration of Independence. If you haven't read that, that's a good document to familiarize yourself with every now and then. And yesterday we did an hour on the Articles of Confederation and the Constitution. And I would bet if you did this quiz to people, a substantial percentage would get it wrong. And the question would be, did Thomas Jefferson sign the Constitution? Did he have any part in writing the Constitution? Did Thomas Jefferson?
Well, see, I was here yesterday, so
the
I'm not allowed to participate.
Yeah, I would bet if you gave that quiz, like Jay Leno used to do street walking across America, I would bet the majority of people would think that Thomas Jefferson played a big part in the construction of the Constitution and signed it. But the correct answer, Bill Stubblefield, is?
No, Jefferson was in Paris at that time, so he was not around.
He was basically doing ambassadorial type work in Paris.
Yeah. You said there's 27 grievances, and you read 2 of them against the king. Which king?
That would be George, I guess, right?
The third.
The third.
Yeah.
Oh, that's not the direction I was going. There have been no king marches recently, and I wondered if we're talking about our current king.
We don't have a current king.
We do.
No, we do not.
Yeah, we do. But
no, we don't.
Yes, we do, and I'm going to keep saying yes, we do until you let me finish my sentence, Mike. And the thing, Bill, though, is he has not yet been able to successfully dissolve any of the people's assemblies. Although I think, in his deep dark mind, I think he would like to.
Okay. So now that you've said it, you were wrong. We do not have a king.
And I was trying to be funny, Mike. And I was thinking Rob would pick me up, but he was a little slow in cutting.
I certainly did not know where you were going. I thought you were doing a genuine history quiz.
No.
Yeah. We have our leadoff hitter ready to go, Mr. Joe Ferretti. Torts, it's your stage, sir.
By the way, Rob, we know Thomas Jefferson was the by and large, the author of the Declaration of Independence. And in our discussions that we will probably have next week in the review of some of the Supreme Court decisions that recently were handed down, I might suggest that our Supreme Court justices go back and read the Declaration of Independence, which focused primarily on the concentration of political power in one individual or one branch of government. Our Supreme Court seems to have forgotten that lesson. Now, back to my subject this morning, and I'm going to take us back in time to the 1800s. In 1880, James Garfield was running for the presidency. Charles Guiteau, a businessman in the country, a successful one with some money, was actively campaigning for James Garfield. He showed up at campaign stops, he wrote speeches, he lent financial support to the Garfield campaign. When James Garfield became our president in 1880, Mr. Guiteau felt that his loyalty and his patronage should be rewarded with a job. So he petitioned the Garfield administration for employment. And he asked for some jobs for which he had very little qualifications, but he felt it was owed to him. This was the era of spoils and patronage when it came to government jobs, and Mr. Guiteau naturally felt he was entitled. A job offer never came through, and within 4 months of the start of the Garfield administration, Mr. Guiteau shot our president twice and killed him because he didn't get a job. In the aftermath of this presidential assassination, the spoils and patronage system came under review and finally reformed by the U.S. Congress. In 1883, the Civil Service Reform Act was passed. It required actual testing for federal jobs, and it outlawed political patronage for those who might think they're entitled to a job. Arbitrary firings were to be reviewed before any termination from a federal job was finalized. Civil service protections began to expand after the 1880s, and federal workers steadily received more security on the job. The Hatch Act in 1939 was passed, and here was the grand bargain. The federal workers would enjoy expanded civil service protections, but in return, they were outlawed from being a part of any political campaigns. That is still the law today. Civil service protections for federal workers continued to expand. In 1978, a Merit System Protection Board was established where independent individuals, an agency, would review any job actions that were taken against federal workers. If you were demoted, if you lost pay, if you were terminated, you had a right to go before the board and say, my termination or my job action against me was illegal, improper, not warranted, and the review board would review that and determine whether or not that was correct. 100+ years of civil service protection now are under attack. President Trump, in one of the first acts of his administration, fired the Democrats who were on the Merit System Protection Board. Those firings were upheld. We saw in the Slaughter case just decided last week that the president now enjoys the power to fire agency heads. Think FDA, think SEC, FTC. All those agency heads can now be fired for political reasons at the whim of the president. And the Slaughter case, if you read it, ominously does not address whether people below the level of agency head can be fired. We now potentially have a system where a new president can come in and fire every federal worker without recourse for those workers. On a state level, our legislature in the past 2 sessions, at the request of Governor Morrisey, has ended civil service protections for state workers in various agencies, including tourism, commerce, and DHHR, where workers in those agencies maybe have lost pay or had they lost their job or they were demoted. They used to be able to go before the Public Employee Grievance Board in the state of West Virginia to appeal those decisions. Those job protections for those folks no longer exist. And I suspect the legislature may not be done in terms of stripping state workers' rights under the state civil service system. Critics of the scaling back of the civil service protections claim it's going to be harder to recruit now and retain state workers. Traditionally, the bargain has been this. You make a little less money working for the government on a state or federal level, but in return, you get some job security. You get some rights to appeal job actions that may be taken against you. For many workers in the state and federal realm, those protections no longer exist. It's feared now that we're going to return to the days of political influence and patronage, where people who merely supported Governor Morrissey or the president with campaign dollars or in some other way will get the jobs, despite perhaps low qualifications and low experience in those jobs. Proponents of the effort to strip away civil service protections argue that this is going to lead to greater efficiency. In fact, that's what Governor Morrissey has touted ever since he became our governor. And he said that you'll be able to take actions that may be necessary against state workers without the fear of review and reprisal by the grievance board in the state of West Virginia. So my question this morning is, are these recent developments good government or the means of stocking government jobs with those who feel they are entitled to the job, like Charles Guiteau? That's my question this morning.
Mr. Carl.
Well, as the only child of a career federal employee and as a former appointed state official, I have to say it's a huge mixed bag. The safety or the independence of appointed government employees is important, and so it's not just totally, subject to political plus and minus, but it also you need a system where if you protect people from political firing, you have to at least measure their success as employees and their continuation as employees, but their promotions and so forth on the merits of their work. And I've been concerned that the too much protection, this rigid protection of government employees, doesn't have the same incentive to be efficient and loyal and do your job competently that the private sector does. And so it's a big mixed bag, but to anybody that thinks that the state of West Virginia, political system has not gotten after employees for the wrong reasons, I don't agree with that.
What department did your dad work for, Mike?
The Department of Agriculture, Soil Conservation Service, for 40 plus years.
Mr. Stubblefield, you were on the civil service payroll for a while.
I was several years, or not the civil service, the military side of the payroll, government payroll, and I largely agree with Mike. Carl, I want to challenge one word. He used the word rigid, which implied, and it was rigid in one degree, but it could be, people could be fired. I saw many instances through my 35 years of government employees that someone were fired. So it's not that they're totally protected, but there was protection, and Joe gave the reason for a lot of them. I thought he did quite well. We're seeing something we've never seen in our country. We're seeing a president who is challenging the norms. History will tell, is he correct or not? Anytime you challenge the norms, it's disruptive. There's going to be pushback. The feel that things will not be done the way they've always been done. We've experienced it. I'm not sure that is bad. I recognize there's a lot of things been done that I'm personally uncomfortable with, but I don't know if I'm right on this, and I don't know if the president is right on this. History will judge. We do have, I think, for the first time in our lifetime, a president that is willing to do what he perceives to be right, to heck with what he thinks the norms are and what the populace thinks agrees with him or not. So in that regard, I'm giving him credit. I don't know if it's right or not. We'll find out in time.
Badger.
Yeah, I think one of the problems is that with the civil service protections is you have unelected bureaucrats that are in the same position no matter what party is in control, and they sort of run things the way they want to run things, no matter who's in control. And when you try to push back and fire them, it's not that you can't fire them. It's a long and lengthy process to fire them for not doing the job that the elected officials want to have done. And those elected officials were elected by the people. That is the people's choice. So if change has come and the unelected bureaucrats within the Civil Service Commission don't like it, it's not their job to push back. It's their job to do what the elected officials have instructed them to do. And we have the same thing in the state legislature. I can tell you right now, I have lawyers that work for me and have done stuff for me that maybe don't like the policy I'm pushing, but they do their job. And they recognize that is their function there, is to do what they are told, whether it is Democratic rule or Republican rule, and they do their job very well. And I appreciate that. But I think there are also entrenched unelected bureaucrats that have been in positions of power for 20 and 30 years, and they push back all the time. And it's hard to get the changes that you want done in some of these agencies. And sometimes it's subtle, and sometimes it's in your face. But when you have a new secretary come in, per se, and they are relying upon those individuals below them to give them certain information, I think there are unelected bureaucrats that give them the information they want to give them and skewed in a certain way. And when you find that that's happening, I think you need to have the power to get rid of those individuals.
Mr. Doyle.
It's all in the situation. During the 3 years and a few, maybe as much as a month, something like that, that I was in the executive branch as Deputy Secretary of Revenue, I didn't see anybody that tried to do the pushback like Mike Hite is talking about. There were people in the Department of Revenue that I would have political discussions with, and they were clearly Republicans and disagreed with a number of things that Governor Earl Ray Tomblin wanted to do. But once the governor made the decision, they said, okay, this is a decision, it's our job, we're going to do it. I'm sure that on occasion you get somebody who digs his or her heels in. And yes, you need to be able to first attempt to discipline the person, and then if you can't, to get rid of them. I will accept that maybe sometimes the rules can be too rigid. But the solution is not to do away with civil service, which is what Governor Morrissey is trying to do. Because I remember when West Virginia, back in the 50s and 60s, when I was growing up, back when civil service was just beginning in West Virginia, let me tell you, folks, the folks who were in then, and I can remember in the Wally Barron administration, the Hewlett Smith administration, and when Underwood came in, and many of those Democrats left and Republicans came in, these were all people who saw their job as whatever the governor says, do it without questioning. The reason we need professionals is to say, excuse me, Governor, and actually it would be, they'd come to me as a deputy secretary and said, would you tell the secretary that if he tries to do this, this is what's going to happen? And I would do that. We'd call them in, and sometimes they'd persuade us, and we'd be able to persuade the governor that he was maybe going in the wrong direction. That's how it's supposed to work. And I think, despite the failings of civil service, it works a lot better with civil service than with the spoils system, where you have only hacks that in many cases have no idea what their job is, much less how to do it.
But also, I'd like to comment, Mike, in 35 years, I never saw anybody pushing back against the policy that was dictated by the political appointees, which was done by the elected officers. I saw them question the method for implementation on occasion, that the implementation had worked well over the years, but I never once saw anybody push back against the policy. Maybe I lived in a naive world, but that's the world I lived
At the state level,
I often think so.
I will say this, at the state level, to back up Mike Hyde a little bit, I can remember doing a lot of interviews during the time that power was shifting from Democrats to Republicans, and the thought that was most expressed was that those who were in civil service in the state viewed the Republican takeover as a one-term anomaly, and they were going to wait it out until the Democrats retook power. And as a result, they were going to try to frustrate the Republicans every opportunity that they could. Whether that's factual or not, I can't tell you any examples of people doing that. I'm just telling you the interviews we did that reflected that point of view, both from people who were elected and not elected.
Now, the people not elected, were they officials or were they actually civil service employees?
It's been several years. I would tell you some of them were elected people, some of them were not.
No, but of the ones who were not elected.
Oh, were they civil service
Were they
employees?
appointed officials appointed to carry out the policy of the administration, or were they civil service people?
I would say both, and most of that was off the record.
Okay.
Information, not official on the air interviews. Joe, final thought comes back to you. 2 minutes.
Rob, Mike Height, I think his comments indicate to me that he's aware that, with at least with respect to the attorneys he works with, that people are capable of doing their job despite their politics and despite the politics at the top of the various agencies or perhaps the people they serve. And I think by and large that's true. There's always going to be some tension there, but my concern is, as John Doyle raised, that we shouldn't throw the baby out with the bathwater. If the civil service system is in need of reform, if it is too rigid, as Mike Carl suggested in some respects, then reform it. But don't strip these people of some protections, because we know in state government it's hard to recruit people. We're short of people in state government. Talk about even some of these agency heads. There's been a revolving door in some of these instances. So it's hard to get these people in these jobs that are qualified for them. And the flip side of the coin here is, if we return to a spoils and patronage system, we're going to end up with people like RFK Jr. heading up Health and Human Services. Or back in the day, in the Obama administration, we had those incompetents running the Veterans Administration. Remember all the issues about the wait times for the veterans and getting medical services? Or how about Mike Brown, who was running FEMA during Hurricane Katrina, and what a disaster that was. Mike Brown was wholly unqualified for that job, and people paid for it. So I think that's the concern. So my thought here this morning is that I think civil service protection still has a role in state and federal government. I fear we're going in the wrong direction because we're just abrogating it rather than reforming it.
Joe, thank you. Good lead-off topic. Appreciate it. And hang out during the break. As we come back, the Admiral is on the clock. This, as well as the Badger. We earlier in the show took a look at some of the grievances against the king. And that would be George III, by the way, Bill, in case you're going to put this on.
And I want to come back to that in a second as well. So.
He has excited domestic insurrections amongst us and has endeavored to bring on the inhabitants of our frontiers the merciless Indian savages, whose known rule of warfare is an undistinguished destruction of all ages, sexes, and conditions. He has constrained our fellow citizens taken captive on the high seas to bear arms against their country, to become the executioners of their friends and brethren, or to fall themselves by their hands. two more of the 27 grievances against the king as we welcome back our co-host. He is Badger. He is a delegate. He is Michael Haidt. Good morning, sir.
Good morning. Great to be here.
Former tax commissioner of the state of West Virginia, longest tenured member of our crew, Mr. Michael Carl.
Good morning.
You met Joseph Ferretti by telephone. Joseph Joey Torts Ferretti. Joe, welcome back.
Thank you. Good morning.
On the video call. He is a 26-year member of the House of Delegates, Vietnam War veteran, Mr. John Doyle.
Good morning, everybody.
And with our grievances against the Admiral, I present two more.
Two more, exactly right.
He interrupts when I'm trying to introduce the co-host.
With your grievances against the king, I tried to be flippant and thought I was trying to be funny. I was deservedly called out for being making a cheap shot.
Snarky.
And I think the poster was exactly right. I did make a cheap shot, and I apologize. I'll try to be more professional in the past. Or in the future. That was my goal. And also work on the past as well, Mike. Okay.
It would be great if there was an edit button and we could go back and change the past.
Exactly right. But we all afflicted. We do not have that button.
Yes, sir. All right, Mr. Stubblefield, issue number 2.
I'm going to shift gears, and that's going to be the national debt. Our national debt currently stands at just a hair under $40 trillion. It's climbing at nearly $7 billion per day over the past month. The last year, it has grown to by roughly $3 trillion. The interest alone exceeds $1 trillion per year, which is more than the entire defense budget, ranks only behind Social Security and Medicare. No one party has been to be blamed for this. The Bush administration, Obama administration, the Trump administration, Biden administration, all have contributed substantially to that. The CBO projects that in the future, the One Big Beautiful Bill will increase the national debt by nearly $4 trillion over the next 10 years. The Republicans complain loudly when they're out of office about nobody's watching the bill, the national debt going up. When they're in office, when they have the reins, they tend to emphasize tax cuts and defense spending rather than deficit reduction. The Democrats, less rhetoric, they just keep on spending, which they do not complain about it, they just want to spend. My question to my panelist, can we do anything more, since it looks like our legislature is not doing anything, can we do anything more than just look at it go up and complain about the eventuality? I don't see them taking any action, at least not. The last time it was balanced, the last time we balanced budget was when?
Clinton.
No. Clinton Button, he did not cut the deficit at all. It was Andrew Jackson.
Well, no, you said balanced budget.
Excuse me, I did say balanced budget. That was Clinton. But the last time they did deficit reduction on the national debt was Andrew Jackson.
Yeah, he zeroed out the debt, Andrew Jackson.
Yeah.
Mike Carl understands more about tax law and taking in money than anybody else in the room. Let's go to him first.
Well, thanks for that introduction.
I'm here for you, big guy.
I'll try to sustain it or justify it. But from that perspective that you just described, it depends on the tax type, but like sales tax, grocery receipts taxes, or raise revenue. But if there are, is there enough private sector demand? But the income tax is one where if you lower the rates in a thoughtful way, but if you lower the rates, you can actually increase the revenue when it's applied in a free enterprise system, and you have to recognize that principle and stimulus, but it's not automatic. But if you do it right, and that I think. It's an absolute principle that if you lower the tax on earned income, you actually can raise revenues.
If I recall from college Econ 101, that was the Laffer curve, if I remember, where taxation meets revenue and there's the sweet spot of collections versus rates.
Yeah.
Right? Arthur Laffer, I think his name was. Mr. Doyle.
Mike Carl is right. I will caution, though, that there is a point where, as you reduce and reduce and reduce, you get to the point of it's called the point of diminishing returns. When you cross that line, then you begin taking in less and less, and where that line is a guess. It truly is a guess. Now there are substantive things we can do, and more than one, if you could get the political will to agree, and that's the rub. I think the payroll tax, you would go a long way toward fixing this if you remove the cap on the payroll tax. It's about 450,000 now. I don't know what it is. It's somewhere along in there.
No, it's like 176.
176.
I think it's 184 actually this year.
See, there's a cap there, and obviously I can't remember where it is from day to day. I'll never hit it. But if you remove that, now you're going to take in some more. And let's remember, just as an aside real quick, the advocates of what are called the flat tax, the flat income tax, say that there should be simply a percentage and everybody pays a percentage of that. That's what the advocates of the flat tax say. If the payroll tax were truly a flat tax, it would not have this cap. So anyway, that's how you fix part of it. I do think also another way to do it is beginning with people who are just coming into the system. You raise the age at which they can begin to get their money. I mean, let's face it. I'm 84 years old now, and people 50 years ago who were 84, I don't think as many of them were in as good a health as I am as there are now. So I do think we can raise the age. Now, it would be, I think, unfair and illegal to raise it on people who have already entered the system and it's been committed. You're going to be able to get this money when you are X years old. But we can start it with new people coming into the system, and then 30 years from now, it will begin having an effect on the sustainability of the system. And I think politically, what I would like to see is a combination of those two approaches for the Democrats and Republicans to get together, adopt a combination, and I think we would have that problem, at least the Social Security part, fixed, which is a large part of the national debt.
The cap in 2026 is 184,500. That goes up pretty much almost every year based on a few factors. Average wage is one of the ones that they use for that. I'm thinking 79, I think the cap was $27,000, and now it's 184,500. So it does go up. Have been proposals that they would have a little grace period between 184,500 and say 400,000, where you wouldn't pay it, and then it would kick back in after $400,000. The various proposals about how to keep Social Security solvent.
That would help.
Yeah. All right, Mr. Height.
Well, I'll say we started off by talking about taxation, income tax, and reducing taxes, and that would generate more revenue. And we've talked about removing caps on taxes, and that would increase revenue. What we haven't talked about is cutting spending. And until we have the political will on either side of the aisle to cut spending in certain areas, there is no way we're going to balance the budget, much less reduce the national debt, because we can't just balance the budget. We have to have surpluses. We have to get to the point where we're balanced plus surpluses to pay down this national debt. And there is no political will for that on either side of the aisle, because as soon as you start talking about cuts, you don't get reelected. And if you don't get reelected, you lose power. And nobody wants to lose power on either side of the aisle. This is going to continue until the country is in real trouble, or we just default on our debt. And who are we defaulting on? Are we defaulting on other countries, or are we defaulting on our own people? And that's pretty much what it is. We'll be defaulting on our own people who own the bonds that are propping up this debt right now. I don't see this going away, and I don't see an easy solution, and I don't see, and for the reasons I've just outlined, nobody has the political will to do this.
Mr. Ferretti.
Well, let me add another a reason to why there's no political will, and that's because there's no political accountability. I was reading the Cook political report last week, looking at the races coming up this fall in the midterm elections. And out of, 535 seats in Congress, there are anywhere from 25 to 35 that are considered by the Cook political report to be seats in play. In other words, competitive districts. When you have districts where 95% of the people in Congress don't have to worry about getting reelected, what accountability is there ever going to be regarding spending, regarding budget cutting, and those things that we know will eventually at least help try to solve this problem? Without accountability, we've got nothing to offer to deal with the nation's debt. And currently, I see profligate spending with nobody raising an alarm whatsoever. $500 million to retrofit Air Force One, the gift of the plane from Qatar, $500 million to retrofit a $400 million gift. That's money out the door, folks, and no one seems to care. And not a word from either side of the aisle in Congress, because these folks are too secure in their jobs, and we've let it become that way because of the laws regarding gerrymandering, and it's only going to get worse. So, with only 25 to 35 people worried about their jobs, you're not going to get the kind of action we need.
Yeah, Joe, but even in those safe seats, those safe seats, if they were to start cutting and pushing back and doing all the things you're talking about, their seats would not be safe anymore. They may stay in one party control, but they would lose in the next primary. And I think a lot of times that's why they don't do it.
And that's the point. They're only threatened by the extremes on their own side. And that is what makes compromise almost impossible.
Back to you, Bill.
Yeah, the solution would be a balanced budget, but they do not have the heart to do that either.
Well, we've got a few things staring us in the face that are major obstacles that Clinton, who last balanced the budget, warned of, and two of those are huge social programs in Medicare and Social Security. And these are because of the baby boom being right now stressed beyond what they're set up to do. But the thing is, we all saw it coming. Anybody who can do math saw it coming. You knew what this bubble was going to be and how long it was going to last. And there was an opportunity to take appropriate precautions financially as a result of that. After Clinton had balanced the budget, he said so. And we proceeded to ignore all of those warnings. And here we are now.
Yeah, and we've been ignoring the warnings since our founders' days. I've been reading David Smith's book. David was on again yesterday. And our founders raised the red flag, raised the word of sense of caution. And several things were saying today. One was the debt.
Well, we have the four major expenses are the servicing of the debt, Medicare, Social Security, and the Defense Department. The rest that is discretionary spending is a very, very small part of the budget. You could cut all that tomorrow and it wouldn't make a dent right now in just what we overspend in a year.
That's right.
Issue number 3, Mr. Height.
All right, I'm going to go back to a state issue. We've been talking about the funding for TANF and the funding for schools in the state of West Virginia, and some of the deficits, if you will, in those areas, lack of funding. And at the same time, we are having a celebration of America's 250th birthday at the Capitol. A lot of people are complaining that that is a huge waste of taxpayer money in light of the situations that we're facing in some other areas. So my question to the panel is it a waste of taxpayer money to celebrate the America's 250th birthday at the state level, and why?
Hi, there's a member of the room who's a former delegate and was Deputy Revenue Secretary and a Finance Vice Chair as well, Mr. Doyle.
Certainly not. It's not a waste of money to celebrate it. Now, I do think it is legitimate to question particular aspects of the celebration. Is this particular thing worth it? I'm not sure the Ferris wheel was worth it, but that's my opinion. There are other things about it that other people would say, wait a minute, we could do without doing it this way. But Mike Height is right in the sense that the entire expense of it is a drop in the bucket compared to the problems that the state has and have not been solved yet. So what I really think we need to do is focus on the problems that need to be solved. How do we best solve them? Understanding it's going to take money to do it, but also that we need to find the best way to spend that money to have an effective solution to the problem. So I do think the celebration in the Capitol is kind of a shiny object that is distracting some people. But again, I would say it's fine to celebrate. Maybe things like the Ferris wheel are too much, but that all distracts from, hey, let's fix TANF, let's fix the schools. There are a number of other problems the state needs to focus on rather than this celebration.
Michael Carl.
Well, first of all, I strongly support the celebration, the concept of it.
Are you for the Ferris wheel?
I'm not even, the details are another thing. But the principle of celebrating the 250th anniversary is important, and at the state level as well as, of course, the national level. But let's keep in mind the budgetary difference between the federal government and the state government. The state government cannot spend more than it takes in. Now it can issue bonds or borrow money, but it can't just spend it like the federal government does beyond the revenue flow of the tax system. So that's an important distinction, and I think it's good on the state side for that reason.
Mr. Stubblefield.
Yeah, I think the celebration on 4th of July, Memorial Day, and others are designed in part to make us feel good about ourselves, feel good about a country, and feel good about our history. I think as a consequence, the 4th of July celebrations are very important in that regard. I'm not going to get involved with the Ferris wheel. John, you're trying to get us into that trap. You can stay. I'm not going to get into that. Where I do have a fault, and I have not seen this in West Virginia, is the overly politicizing. The political leaders have always been involved with a 4th of July presentation. That's part of the 4th of July, the political speeches and the like. And I guess it's in the eyes of the beholder, but what we're seeing on the national level, in the eyes of many people, it's been taken a step beyond the norm. It has become the political the festivities have been centered on the politician or the political program, as opposed to political individuals centered on the activities themselves. I have not seen that in West Virginia. I see no problem at all what we're doing in West Virginia, and I applaud Governor Marcy for what he's done.
Mr. Ferretti.
One of the first things that the Nazis did when they took over Poland and then they marched into what was Czechoslovakia and some of the Eastern European countries was they stole all of the art. Now, why did they do that? Because they wanted to strip the locals of their identity. They wanted to take away their culture, their affiliation with their country, and the artists and the professionals that live within that country. That was a goal of theirs in terms of how they were going to conquer these areas. I say that because in many respects, government is to take our hard-earned tax dollars and in some ways reinstill in us a notion of culture, of history, of who we are and what we were and what we can become. West Virginia has the Tamarack Center. And if you haven't visited it, it celebrates West Virginia culture. And I know state dollars went into that, a lot. And we have other facilities and other museums throughout the state to celebrate the heritage of West Virginia. So I think there's a role there for state government to spend some dollars in that regard, because it's like, as Bill Stubblefield suggested, it helps us psychologically have a connection to not only our state government, but the state itself. So I'm all for the celebrations. I know it hurts to spend the money. I know there's a lot of needs in West Virginia where that money could be put to use. But at some point, you have to ask yourself, why are we working so hard? Why are we paying our taxes? In some respects, that money does instill a little state pride and a little recognition of what our culture is about. So I'm not going to get upset if we spend a fraction of those tax dollars towards a celebratory effort in the state capitol.
Make it 10 seconds, John. I got to go back to Mike.
To illustrate what a curmudgeon I am, I voted against Tamarack, and I'm happy about it.
Mr. Height, time to wrap it up.
So I'll go back to a couple of the things. You know, we have issues with education. We have issues with TANF. I get some of that. But I think that's more of a mismanagement of funds than it is an actual lack of funding. When you hire or expand with temporary money, then you're just asking for trouble. And I think that's a lot of what happened. In 2017, our state budget for education, $570 million. Today, it's $2.4 billion. We are spending lots and lots of money on some of these issues. As far as the Ferris wheel, you should know better than anybody. We appropriate the money and give them a budget, and then it's his. He can spend it however he wants. So if he wants to spend it on a Ferris wheel, he can spend it on a Ferris wheel.
On that note, we are out of time. All we know now is that John Doyle has been labeled anti-big Ferris wheel.
And anti-Tamarack.
Welcome back, our co-hosts, and we've been doing that today with a look at the Declaration of Independence and the 27 complaints against the king. Here is one for you as well. He is, at this time, transporting large armies of foreign mercenaries to complete the works of death, desolation, and tyranny, already begun with circumstances of cruelty and perfidy scarcely paralleled in the most barbarous ages, and totally unworthy the head of a civilized nation. At the end of the 27 complaints against the king, there is this paragraph. There are others, but this is the first one. In every stage of these oppressions, we have petitioned for redress in the most humble terms. Our repeated petitions have been answered only by repeated injury. A prince whose character is thus marked by every act which may define a tyrant is unfit to be the ruler of a free people. As I read those, my first thought was, did Mike Height write those against the governor?
Yeah.
He didn't answer the question.
No comment.
Who did write them, Rob? Do you know? Was that Thomas Paine, or do you know?
Well, those are the Declaration of Independence words. Thomas Jefferson gets credit for the majority of that, but he did have assistance. Yeah. Our co-host on the fine 3rd of July being observed as the 4th. Somebody wrote, I'm surprised Hornby's making them work on this day. The question is, Mike did give me the option of taking the day off, and I said, no, it's July 3. We're doing the show. So I appreciate all of you folks in here being part of the show, including Delegate Mike Height, who we didn't know at this time, but somebody in his lineage helped write the Declaration of Independence. We didn't know that until today.
I did not know that either.
Yeah, just by those 2 paragraphs, I'm guessing there's something in there. Mike Carl,
another angry badger.
Oh, there were a bunch of angry badgers at the Second Continental Congress.
Joe Ferretti by video conference. Joe?
Yeah, my question for Hornby is, since you're working on what should be a day off, you get time and a half.
He's in the comments section, generally speaking.
Well, I think all of us get time and a half.
We do.
Times 0.
Mr. Doyle with issue number 4.
J.D. Vance, a few days ago, said that Richard Nixon was unfairly treated. He was run out of office by the fake news media or something like that. that what he did was a nothing burger, would be a nothing burger today. I'll agree with that part. Richard Nixon was a crook. I mean, he's a crook all his life. That's why he got the name Tricky Dick. And his administration was corrupt. It was, and we have to look no further than Republican U.S. congressmen like Larry Hogan Sr. of Maryland and Caldwell Butler of Virginia, Republican senators like Hugh Scott of Pennsylvania, Barry Goldwater of Arizona, Bill Saxby of Ohio, Howard Baker of Tennessee, all agreed he broke the law and therefore should be disciplined. And compared to the kleptocracy that we have running the country today, it was a nothing burger. But Richard Nixon broke the law, and I have said, I think on this show a couple of times, that I think I understand Gerald Ford's motivation in pardoning him. I thought at the time that it was a mistake. I still think it was a mistake, and I think part of the reason it was a mistake is it sort of psychologically laid the groundwork that maybe the president is above the law. We must get out of that thinking. I don't care if I'm in Congress, which I will never be and have never been, but if I were in Congress, I would hope that I would think, if presented with a bill of particulars against a president of my party, anywhere near what was presented against Richard Nixon, I would say we have to vote him out of office. We have to impeach him and convict him. And I think we'd all have been better off if in fact, after he resigned, he had been prosecuted, and if guilty, which I think he was, convicted. Now, maybe you don't send him to prison. Maybe you sentence him to a few years home confinement at San Clemente. But if we had done something like that, I think there would be a greater hue and cry against this obvious corruption of the Trump administration. I'll give Trump this. He is transparent. He is out front saying, I am taking money from the taxpayers, and it's my due because I'm president. But I think we need to get away from that. So that is that is the thesis I present to the panel for their perusal and discussion.
Mr. Carl, you were in the Nixon White House.
Well, not only that, I voted for him before I even went into the service, but then in the military, I served in the White House, as you point out, and but I'll have to say I was glad to get out early so I could go to law school.
I appreciate your input there. You leave a lot for the imagination on that.
No, he said a lot.
Admiral.
Yeah, two things struck me. One is why J.D. Vance would make these comments at this point in time. I don't know which audience he was speaking to. I don't see what good it would do him. So I was surprised that he did that. The second thing is things have changed in our attitude since as John Doyle said, since the Nixon resignation. But one thing that has changed was the recent Supreme Court rendering that the presidents are basically immune from prosecution. The only way you can address the ill action of a president is through impeachment. And I think that the standards for impeachment are so high, it'll never happen. So the president can practically do anything now being immune. Certainly not through civil prosecution, and I don't think through impeachment because of the high threshold.
Well, the standards for drafting the articles of impeachment by Congress are pretty low, because we seem to do it every other year. But for actually impeaching, they're pretty high.
Exactly. No, excuse me. I should clarify that. Impeachment is very likely. There's no problem at all with impeachment. Conviction is what's so high, and it would be practically impossible for a conviction in this day and time.
Mr. Heights?
Yeah, I think Tricky Dick would not have left office if it were today. It would have been a big nothing burger if it were today. But I think it's because today we are so entrenched in our encampments that we are so divided on either side that we look away when it is our guy. You pointed to Trump. I could point to Biden as well, and some of the anomalies and corruption in that particular administration. So I see it on both sides, and the problem is, and I think back in Tricky Dick's day, I think the Congress had more scruples. They didn't care I don't care if you're on my team. We're not going to put up with this kind of behavior from the president, and I think the president knew that, and that's why he resigned when he did. Today, they would just get away with it. They would just string it out, and it would be this big circus like it has been for many, many years. And I wish, I would certainly agree with you. I wish we had prosecuted him back then and continued to prosecute it. Maybe it would prevent some of these scandals from happening. They would think twice about it today. I just don't know if that would ever happen. I don't see the Senate ever convicting, even if you are impeached. Even impeachment means nothing now, because it's so, well, at least with Trump, it's so commonplace. We're going to impeach him and find a reason to impeach him. It's gotten ridiculous. I think it's because we're so divided as a country. So I'm not sure what the cure is, but we're certainly a long way from where we should be.
Well, and part of that was the payback for the Clinton impeachment. Somebody was going to pay for that at some point along the way.
But there'll not be convictions. There'll be no convictions. There'll be impeachment, but no convictions.
Correct.
Mr.
Yeah, I would
Ferretti.
agree.
Joe.
Well, it goes back to accountability, Mike, and I think I'm going to continue to hold Democratic leadership accountable for not raising concerns about Biden's fitness for office when it was becoming apparent that there were real issues there. And I think we found that out at the end of the Biden presidency, that somebody should have raised a concern. And I will maintain that the Republicans in Congress right now will regret their silence in the face of what's going on with a president who has amassed $2 billion in wealth in 1 year while in office. If that doesn't shake the confidence of people in terms of their governance, I don't know what will. But I fully expect that there's going to be a lot of regret with some of these people in Congress who have said nothing in the face of this. And the bottom line with regard to J.D. Vance, my takeaway is that the Republicans better look long and hard at him for 2028, because he has exhibited an ability to stick his foot in his mouth, and he did here. I mean, what's the message? What's the takeaway? What's going on today is 10 times worse than Watergate, so, Nixon deserves rehabilitation. I mean, it's a terrible message. I don't know what he's thinking, but it hopefully fell flat with those who listened to it and those who have learned of it in the aftermath.
Yeah, as time goes by, we push the envelope on what's offensive to us and what's not. If you remember the 70s, you're coming out of a decade like the 60s where on the Dick Van Dyke Show, a married couple slept in twin beds. Yet they had a kid. Richie ran around the house. I don't know how he got there. He was adopted or what. And you go into the 70s, and the Brady Bunch, they wouldn't show the toilet. They didn't have a toilet in their bathroom. The kids didn't have a toilet in their bathroom in the Brady Bunch because it was the early 70s, and we didn't show toilets on television. That was the limits of what offended us back then. So when Nixon does what he does, you had a proper nation that was quite offended by it. We're a little different today. We've really pushed our tolerance limits as to what really offends us. So when you're going to do stuff at the top, it's got to be a lot to get people offended. All right, on to issue number 5. Mr. Yes,
I don't get to close?
Oh, yes, you do. I'm sorry.
Real quick. First of all, it warms the cockles of my heart that Mike Height agrees with me on something. It really always does. And I'm indebted to Bill for mentioning the Supreme Court decision that essentially does say the president's immune. I believe had we prosecuted Nixon and convicted him, even if we didn't send him to jail, I believe that Supreme Court decision would have been different.
And you may not have had a Jimmy Carter.
That's correct.
Issue number 5, Mike Carl.
let me quickly add my Nixon relationship.
Yes, sir.
During my military service in his White House, I lived just a block or two from the Watergate. So that was the risk I took, was just walking to work through the Upper West Side of Washington.
Were you holding a flashlight?
In honor of your time in the Nixon White House, I will edit out 18 and a half minutes of this show today.
Well, but to an open topic or issue, open question, what are the causes of the recent anti-Semitic movement of a lot of Democratic leaders?
Do you have an example?
All that they're fighting about supporting Israel in the war. I mean, there's all kinds of criticism of what Trump's doing.
Mr. Haidt.
All the Democratic socialists who were just elected. I mean, there's examples. So I would say this goes back to education. You know, why do children grow up in Gaza hating Israel? Because that's what they're taught from the youngest of ages, and probably vice versa with Israel, because that's what they're taught from the youngest of ages. And it happens pretty much in any country where you have an adversary. I grew up hating the Russians and the Chinese because they were communists and they were bad, without actually ever knowing the people. And so when you talk about anti-Semitism today, it is because that's what the education system has taught, and especially in the higher education system in our country right now, where the academic elites come from those anti-Semitic radical left groups who are now professors and teaching in the higher education right now. And sometimes it is just small inferences to the things that Israel are doing, and how Gaza is and the Palestinians are innocent in all of this, and that's how these individuals who are forming their opinions, that's how they get these opinions. And so one only has to look to academia to see why we are anti-Semitic today.
Mr. Ferretti.
Well, I'm going to draw a distinction between anti-Semites and those who are concerned about the Israeli government and its conduct in the military operations in Gaza. Mike, a lot of innocent people were killed in Gaza. And I think it is fair for people in this country to question how the Netanyahu government executed the military operations in Gaza, the bombings of hospitals, the firing upon food convoys that were meant to get to Gaza to feed the people. There were Jewish commentators in this country and elsewhere throughout the country that labeled the actions of the Israeli military as a genocide. I think that is a matter that can be openly and fairly debated without being called an anti-Semite. So I think we can have that conversation without labeling people unfairly. Yes, are there anti-Semites in this country? Sure, on the right and the left. But and that needs to be ferreted out, stamped out, and dealt with. But I still think there is cause to question how this war has been conducted. And we see the rift that's developing now between this country and Israel over Iran. I don't think people in the Trump administration who right now are having a problem with Netanyahu should be called anti-Semites. I think they can fairly question the execution of some of the goals of Israel in terms of innocent loss of life and things of that nature. And I think you can do that without labeling people as anti-Semitic. And I hope we can have that debate fairly.
Well played, Mr. Ferretti. Mr. Stubblefield.
Yeah, Joe was making the point that I was going to make. I think we have to put some space between anti-Semitism and the attitude toward Israelis, to Israel in general, and also the leadership in Israel. Mike, Carl, the way you phrased your question, it was a Democratic issue, Democratic Party issue. Yet polls show that both parties are questioning the leadership in Israel. That is true with the Republican Party as well as the Democratic Party. And so it's the support that Israel has today is not nearly as great as it had 6, 7, 8 years or so ago, because there's a lot of disillusionment toward the leadership in Israel. And it extends across both parties. And I have some numbers if you want to look at them.
Mr. Doyle.
I will echo what has been said by Bill and Joe. The opposition to Israeli policies or the behavior of Israel is not tantamount to anti-Semitism. There is anti-Semitism in some corners of the left, as there is in some corners of the right. Remember the Unite the Right rally in Charlottesville, where they marched down the street with the tiki torches saying Jews will not replace us. They are the fever swamps of the left and the right. In terms of the Democratic Socialists that Mike brought up, all three of these Democratic Socialists who have been elected in the last few weeks, and they've been nominated by the party in districts that are so solidly blue, they will not lose.
There's like 15 of them now.
No.
Across the country.
No, there's not.
Okay.
There's 4 in now and 3 more that have been elected, so that's 7.
You talking about Congress only, or?
I'm talking about Congress. Okay. I'm talking about in the House of Representatives.
Mike's talking about all the other offices.
I'm talking about all the offices.
Mayors and such.
Oh, for heaven's sake, you're talking about tens of thousands of offices. Okay. It's a tiny minority of the Democratic Party. That's my point. So at any rate, and in this one case in New York, where the one Democratic Socialist beat an incumbent, Dan Goldman, who is Jewish. That Democratic Socialist specifically condemned anti-Semitism all through his campaign. So,
back to you, Mike, to wrap it up.
Well, I appreciate all the input, and I think a lot of it rings true and is valid. And I just want to add that the first Jew that I ever met had been elected mayor of Romney, and he was a Democrat, and my mother worked as his secretary. So that's where I'm coming from.
We're learning all about the Carl parents' employment history here today. It's been kind of fascinating.
Well, as an only child, it was pretty important.
Well, you got to feed the kid.
Yeah.
Right? So we've got a minute to take it into the break. We'll get your 4th of July wishes out now before we get to the final 8 seconds here, so you can have other final thoughts. Mike?
Well, happy birthday, America. Go out and be patriotic. Wear your red, white, and blue, and have a good celebration this weekend.
Mr. Carl?
This is a great thing to recognize the 250th anniversary of the beginning of the greatest nation in the world and continuing to be. God bless America.
Mr. Stubblefield?
Thank goodness to our founders, what they've achieved.
Mr. Doyle?
I agree with that, and for that I'll be marching in the parade in Shepherdstown tomorrow.
Very nice. Mr. Ferretti?
Remember that striving and working for a more perfect union is patriotism.
Well said, gentlemen. Thank you. Back with a final thought after this. Thanks to our producer, Kyler Hyde, today. Heat warnings abound. Be careful over the weekend. Joe Ferretti, time to say goodbye. You go first.
In this age of data centers, another important statement from the Declaration of Independence: government derives power from the consent of the governed.
Mr. Doyle.
Happy 4th, everybody.
Mr. Stubblefield.
Remember your pets in this hot weather.
Don't leave them in the car. Mr. Carl.
Your Bucks, my Cards, and the Reds all went on the road and beat 3 of the top teams in the National League yesterday. Go.
Mr. Height.
Lots of heat out there. Stay cool, stay hydrated, stay safe.
Dave Ramsey program is next. Have a great, safe weekend. This is Talk Radio, WNR Martinsburg and TV 10, and we'll talk to you again in 70 short hours.
It's 5 o'clock somewhere.